China is using gold to expose America's exploitation of Africa. Not only is the United States frustrated by this shift, but it also seems to be unable to grasp the idea of genuine partnership, one built on mutual growth rather than exploitation and a winner-takes-all mentality. In this video, we're going to explore how China is leveraging gold to challenge US global dominance while forcing strong alliances across Africa and the global South to promote real development and shared prosperity. If you care about the future of the continent of Africa and are tired of the endless cycle of neo-colonial exploitation driven by the West, this video will show you why China's strategy could make a major turning point, a win-win for the global South and for everyone who wants to see Africa free from economic manipulation. If you don't know me, my name is TJ, I'm Nigerian and British mixed, and on this channel, we talk about African geopolitics. So for decades, the global financial system has revolved around one truth. The United States controls the world through the dollar. From wars to sanctions and market manipulation, America's dominance has been secured not by fairness, but by financial coercion. But that global dominance is now being challenged by China and a multipolar strategy that has gold at the center of it. In recent years, it's been no secret that China's central bank has quietly become the world's largest buyer of gold. A lot of speculation has been made about how much gold it was buying. However, the true number of those purchases was kept opaque while America and the West speculated. However, the chart that you're looking at right now shows a shocking upturn in the publicly available data of China's gold buying habits. You can see for yourself just how dramatically China's gold reserves have increased, with the main hockey stick action all suspiciously within the same time frame since Donald Trump started his trade tariff wars. This spike marks a turning point that is seemingly looking like China wants to secure its financial independence through gold instead of US debt. Rather than keeping its wealth in American IOUs, treasuries, China is trading debt for something real, gold. It's leaving behind a system of promises for one based on tradable value. To make this shift work, China created the Gold Corridor, a network of vaults across Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. This system lets countries holding Chinese yuan swap it directly for gold, giving China's currency a gold-back assurance, reclaiming something that the dollar lost a long time ago: trust. Unlike paper money, gold cannot be frozen, printed, or made worthless. Why does this matter for Africa? I've spoke about this before on my channel, when we focused on what happens when a country owes money in a currency it does not print. Essentially, it becomes trapped and dependent on the country that prints that money. That's the basis of America's dollar system. The US can print money whenever it wants, while African nations must sell their resources just to repay debts in that same currency. Gold breaks that cycle. It's the world's historic currency, something no country, not even America, can print. When deals are backed by gold, nations don't have to chase dollars or fall into endless debt. They hold real value. For decades, the US and its Western allies have used financial dependency as control through the IMF, the World Bank, the CFA franc, and the list goes on. Loans always came with strings attached, keeping African economies tied to Washington policies. But China's system threatens to end that cycle. Here's how. Under the BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, China is pushing to make gold a high-quality liquid asset. That would let countries use gold as collateral to get financing without relying on the dollar. If Africa deposits its gold in the Shanghai Gold Exchange, it could borrow directly in yuan through the BRICS New Development Bank to fund infrastructure without the IMF, the World Bank, or any other of these systems of neo-colonial control. This is revolutionary. Africa holds about a third of the world's gold, yet its people have rarely benefited from it. But you know the story all too well. Western corporations and governments extracted Africa's gold to secure their own financial systems. Now, African nations can use their gold to secure their own futures. The timing couldn't be better. When the US froze 300 billion of Russian reserves in 2022, it sent a message. If your reserves are in dollars, they are not really yours. You could argue that that single act destroyed global trust in the dollar and accelerated the shift toward gold-backed systems. China seized this opportunity and built a network where no country's reserves can be seized with a click. For Africa, it's about sovereignty. With China's gold corridor, nations can finance projects on their own terms. No forced privatization, no debt traps disguised as aid. Just value for value, gold for development. But of course, critics will say China has its own interests at heart. And of course, they would be right. But unlike the West, China offers trade partnerships instead of coercion. It gives Africa space and leverage in global affairs. This moment also exposes the deep arrogance of America's global role. After decades at the top, the US believes it has the divine right to control the world's reserve currencies. It maintains military bases all over the world in a way that no other country does under the guise of freedom. But really what it does is it uses them to preserve its influence. The US government and its military-industrial complex assume that every move away from the dollar is essentially an act of war, because it refuses to treat Africa and the global south as equals. So therefore, from the global south perspective, it no longer deserves to be the world's hegemon. At the same time, China's strategy shows a different version. Its prosperity depends on shared growth, not exploitation. By helping the global south, including Africa, build industries and stable economies, China creates new partners and markets. It has no incentive to repeat the West's colonial mistakes. The more Africa prospers, the stronger China's network will become. The US government sees this as a threat because it cannot imagine a world that isn't zero-sum. To Washington, any move away from the dollar is highly problematic, tantamount to war. But for billions across Africa and the global south, this shift represents hope for dignity, hope for development and independence. Of course, we know America will hate this tactic because it threatens the dollar, built entirely on debt. It's the same reason the US helped destroy Libya and Gaddafi's plan for the gold-backed dinar, an African continental currency which he was proposing. What Gaddafi miscalculated was that Washington was willing to crush Libya militarily for defying the US dollar, but it can't do that to China. It's too powerful. For Africa, aligning with China's gold-based system could mean protection within a network the US cannot crush. Meanwhile, the US is panicking. Like many other nations, seeing the trouble on the horizon, it's trying to bring its reserves back home from London, showing how seriously it takes this challenge. See, America knows that in a world where gold underpins finance, physical possession equals empowerment. For decades, the West convinced Africa to trust paper promises. Now those promises are starting to expire. If gold officially becomes a high-quality liquid asset, demand will likely surge. Some analysts predict up to 2 trillion in new demand, possibly doubling gold's price in just a few years. That's on top of the all-time highs it's recently just hit. That would make Africa's reserves not just valuable, but powerful. It shows that when Ibrahim Traore and his allies in the AES took control of their gold mines, which were owned and run by American and French companies, they were doing the right thing. And all of this falls in line with America's propaganda to condemn this very act. Something close to half of the African countries have significant gold deposits. And for those that don't, they can trade the resources that they have in exchange for gold directly with their neighbors in order to enter the game as well. So when we say China is using gold to expose America's exploitation of Africa, we mean this. It's revealing how the dollar system built dependency, not partnership. It's showing how Africa's resources funded others' prosperity, and now is offering a path, however imperfect, towards real independence. For the first time in modern history, nations across the global south have a choice. They stay tied to the decaying Western system or join the new order based on tradable value and mutual respect. The age of the dollar supremacy is beginning to fade, along with the illusion that Africa's destiny must be written in Washington, London, or Paris. This is Africa's moment to rewrite the story. America's control of the global economy grew from its post-war dominance, But today, that control is being challenged by nations demanding fairness. Imagine, for example, an African country using its own gold to buy power plants or railways without Western approval. That vision of unity and self-reliance is why this gold movement matters. Africa must act together to seize this moment of transformation. And far be it from me to give any financial advice, but anyone who understands this information may also seek an opportunity to take part in this gold buying personally. As governments move away from the dollar and invest in gold, why would it not be a good idea for us to do the same? I myself advise you to go away and do your own research, but it's something that I'm looking at personally. I would love to know what you guys think about this out there. Do you see this as a smart move by China? And should Africa align itself with this strategy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But if you have nothing to say, would it be too much for me to ask you to write the word, "Let's leverage African resources properly"? Just lets me know that you watched the video to the end, you like what I'm doing, and you want me to continue. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.